Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back. This is the B-Tones podcast, and this is episode 10. Again, we'll be hearkening back to the events of last week and Myron Golden's Offer Mastery Live event and the wonderful time that we had down there, the people that we met, and the type of things that we're going to be building and doing moving forward. So as you can see, I have a couple of my brothers that I actually met down there at the conference. They blessed my life in such a way that I brought them on to the podcast to talk a little bit about the things they're doing, some of the takeaways that they had down there from the conference, some of the key things that they're working on this year, and some of the issues that we all face, especially as entrepreneurs, Black men, and how we want to succeed and have more abundance, and what we're going to do and what we're planning to do to go about acquiring those things based on what we've learned. So I want to introduce them. The first one I'm going to introduce you to is my brother Rod Brinson. I'm going to let him talk a little bit about himself, where he's from, and what he's currently doing, and we're going to move from there and flow with the spirit like we usually do. My brother Rod, how's it going, man?
Man, it's going amazing. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here. I was waiting on this invite, so it's here now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So as you mentioned, my name is Rod Brinson. I have a full service marketing agency called Brinson Designs Inc. You can find it at brinsondesigns.com. We pretty much help people establish themselves as a brand or as a business so that they can get more revenue and grow their customer base. So that's my focus. That's what I'm passionate about. And that's my purpose in being here.
That's what's up. I want to hand the mic over to my brother Collins, better known as CJ. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, how's everybody doing? I'm Collins. I go by Kingmaker. And so currently right now I'm building homes, but more importantly than building homes, I specialize in building men or helping men build themselves. I do leadership development, and I facilitate masterminds and seminars just to help men get better. I believe everything gets better when you do, so I'm passionate about helping men get better. And that was my journey, right? Up until we spoke about it briefly, was up until I was about 25 or 26, I wasn't a good man. I was just very wicked. I would take advantage of people. I would try to get over. When I got my relationship with God, I was able to be around men that were actually men, right? Actually seeing men that paid bills and had families, and it showed me the void and the gap in my life, because I had, fell for our culture, and our culture tells us what men do, and it kind of leads you astray, and, caught up with the music and the things that, we accept in our culture, but that's not kingdom culture. So I'm just passionate about helping men reveal their identity and become the king that God put them here to be.
One of the beautiful things I like about the three of us is that our paths all converge down there at Tampa, and just hearing a little bit about the backstories of both you brothers that you've had, and considering my own, it's like the trials that we had faced just to get down there and then absorb the material that we absorbed and then meet the people that we met only gives us, I guess, promise and hope for the things to come, because we know we're moving in the right direction. And for a long time, it seems like we may not. I know I've had obstacles that have kept me stagnant, and I had to do something, desperate or call out to the Most High and ask him. It's like, yo, what do you want me to do next? And in short order, he brought me down there. He allowed me to meet both of you brothers. So one thing I want to ask my brother Rod is the fact that I know you came from kind of the background I came from as far as working and being an entrepreneur, but something critical happened in your background that caused you to be in the position you're at now. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. So I've been working in corporate America for 20 plus years, never been without a job, right? There's never been a gap in between my employment history. If I was moving from one company to another, it was literally seamless, like no time off, just one paycheck to the next. For 20 plus years. And there's a comfortability that comes along with that. But when my wife decided that she didn't want to work anymore due to stresses and things like that, we're trying to nurture and raise kids, I supported her in that. And I decided to figure out another way to make more money. So that's when I started my company, started, doing graphic design and web design on the side part-time. Fast forward 10 years into my business, which grew from earning $6,000 a year to six figures a year over that time span, part-time, passively. I got laid off, and it was the first time in history I had ever been without a job, but God had been kind of prepping me and setting situations up over the previous 2 years leading to that layoff. So when the moment happened, I was already poised. I was already, confident in my abilities to do what I love to do full time. And I had the evidence that it works. if I'm doing it part-time passively and able to surpass 6 figures, what can I do with full-time on my plate? So that was the precipice of the decision making that followed, right? How can I get into this? Who do I need to connect with in order to build it in a better fashion to the conference? So I'm glad we was able to connect, and that's my story. That's how I got away from the golden handcuff, so to speak, for my benefit into my company.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I love how this comes together. And I want those who are listening to kind of imagine yourself in the shoes of those who are listening to as well, especially if you're in similar situations. Maybe you've had abrupt change in your life to where you've been laid off, or something happened in your family or something like that. And consider where you are now and the skills that you have, and if you would be prepared to take the next step into whatever it is that you're pursuing, whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing. Take that into account while you listen to these stories and put it before the Lord in prayer. CJ, I definitely want to bring the mic to you, talking a little bit about your journey to the Offer Mastery Live conference as well. I know you talked about the transition from your old way of life now to this new way of life. Talk about the congruency between that and you arriving to the conference and being ready to receive the information that we all got.
Yeah, one thing I want to touch is it's admirable that Rod was able to retire his wife. That's a big move. But my journey to Offer Mastery was, I had been following Myron for a while because what I see in Myron, I see in myself. What he's able to do, and how he's able to just instill confidence in people to believe in themselves that they can actually do the things they are set out to do. And he does off a biblical standpoint, right? And so for me, it's okay, well, Myron talks about it's the biblical principle of selling the oil. Right, there's something that God gave you, and it may be all that you have, but you're supposed to sell that oil, and that's what I was looking at. And for me and my standpoint, it was right. My passion is about helping men and encouraging men, empowering men, and sharing my testimony. But am I in a position that have the confidence to sell the oil? Can I do this full time? Can I walk away from, like you said, the cushy corporate life, right? It's a safety net, right? It feels very safe, but at the end, if something happened to me, do I think God put me here to work this corporate job? No, I think that me coming to earth was an agreement with God. Is a story I share, but it was an agreement with God to say, God, this is what I want to do here. And if I'm not doing that, then even if I do make 6 figures in a corporate job or whatever the number is, I'm a failure because I didn't do what I was called to do. And that's what I really want to help other men do, is identify what it is that you're called to do. And sometimes it's in your pain. Sometimes it's in the thing that you had to learn how to do because nobody else could do it for you. Right. Sometimes it's in your journey. Sometimes it's in, for me, it's well, my father was deported when I was 2 years old. So I had to learn how to become a man on my own. Well, that thing that I was a victim about, and I was, why me? Why not you? There's a lot of men that need to know that you were able to become a man without having that example. There's a lot of men that need to know how you overcame coming up with a single mother in the DMV area, and how did you overcome drug addictions, and how did you deal with a parent that was addicted to drugs. There's a lot of men that need to hear that. That's the gift that God gave me. And I'm robbing myself if I'm not able to share that gift and help other men understand their gifts as well.
It's so many brothers that I've met just in the ministry space, and I'm glad you shared that portion, because I did not know that the depth of what you just now were explaining, because I was in a similar situation where I was doing ministry with a group of brothers, and I still connect with from time to time. And we were mainly ministering to youth because we saw presently, as I'm sure both of you have seen, how the youth are controlled and manipulated by this generation through music, through entertainment. They have a mindset that is very, very different from any previous generation that came before them, and it's very destructive. I used to live in the District of Columbia. When I was living in DC, there was a recreational center right across the street, and I would go over there and, of course, shoot around, but then also I would be a part of after school programs that would be held there to kind of teach the youth and show them other types of skills and programs that we have for, essential skills that they would have as far as looking for jobs, hobbies that could, help them out in any future profession that they can make side money on, doing that type of stuff. The attention span and the kind of participation that we wanted with those programs, we really didn't get too much of, because there were so many other distractions out there. I mean, mean? So you kind of know when you're at a younger age which one you're going to pick. When I knew I had that passion to want to help and want to mentor and want to, make a positive change in life, but the results weren't coming as I was moving in them. And I thought it was something wrong with me and the way I was doing things. What do I need to do to make a better impact? Elohim called me to himself and pulled me to the side and started reconstructing my mind. And that's the point I want to get to right there. The fact that we do not pay too much attention to the thoughts that we think, nor the words that we speak, is probably one of the most detrimental things that has happened to our lives, because the word says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And life and death are in the power of the tongue. So if we're constantly in an environment to where we're taking in different types of resources and entertainment that is not feeding us spiritually and causing us to better ourselves and be in a better position, we have no chance but to think negative thoughts or to speak negative words, which ultimately will have a negative impact on our life. And it's going to be stifling because God wants us to be in prosperity, in abundance. And he even says in Jeremiah 29:11, he's like, I know the plans I have for you to give you an expected hope and like good things. But if we concentrate and we're so accustomed to either speaking negatively or thinking negatively, that's all we're going to reap, because the word also says God is not mocked. That which a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So I definitely want to talk to you again, Rod, about kind of like your mental shift that had to be adopted when you chose to be 100% full-time entrepreneur. What did you start to do to like craft your mind, discipline your mind, should I say, with the things that you knew you had to accomplish now that you had retired your wife and you were working for yourself?
Man, wow. First of all, you laid so much out there, man. I got to take a piece of that with me. Like, whew. All right. So Proverbs 18:21 is what you quoted. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. I think a lot of people look over that last piece of it, right? They just think about, oh, I got to speak positive. Da, da, da. Well, the Bible also says that God says to try me. Yeah. I have all these principles. I laid it out. Try me. So to the person out there who's a skeptic, who's thinking about, oh yeah, I heard that before, I say, try God. Okay. See if he's going to live up to what he says, because I can guarantee you he will. All right. But you have to experience it yourself. Yeah. So try to remove negative thoughts from your head, which also will remove negative words from your mouth, which also will remove negative actions from your body and what you do day to day, and see what type of positive change you have by wrapping your mind around optimism rather than pessimism. Honestly, man, that transformation began way before the day came that I got laid off. And that's something that I want to hone in on. If you are working a job and you got your side hustle and you got the comfortability of this job while you have this side hustle or this small business or this thing that you're super passionate about, that you have skill in, that you feel like you could really do, what I expect you to do is take time to wrap your mind around the reality that God has to be at the forefront of your life, not of your business, not of your job, not of your side hustle, but your life. And when you do that, the transformation is going to begin to work within you before that day comes, right? Because he doesn't just set us up in a situation where the day the change comes, we, have to begin that transformation at that point. We begin the transformation way prior to. Like, I think about Noah. He started building that boat years before the flood came. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And he had to work at it, and he had to face adversity. He had to face all type of stuff, but his mindset was already towards the future. To answer your question in a nutshell, I didn't begin preparing for that because I had no clue it was coming. Right. I began preparing my life to be centered around God. I began submitting myself to him in every single way, including tithing, which was a big part of my ability to have finances set up in a certain way that when that day came, I was prepared for it. So I would just say begin positioning your life around God and having God in and throughout all of it. The more you submit to him, the more he's able to give and pour into you.
Man, that reminds me of what Christ said, and when he said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. I've heard Myron break it down. Another mentor that I had prior to Myron was a brother named Miles Monroe, who's now since deceased, but he has tons of content on YouTube to where he's speaking about this kingdom lifestyle and adopting the mindset of the kingdom and truly putting it first, because God honestly knows about all the things that we deal with. He knows about all the things that we want. He knows about all the things that we need. If we seek him first in his kingdom and his righteousness, then he's going to take care of everything else on the back end because he owns everything else. CJ, I want to pass the mic to you in regards to this transformational, mindset that we're speaking of and kind of what kicked it off for you. I see you have a very robust library behind you, and I know you got several books.
Hey, I went and looked at Miles, man. I got Miles up there, man. Miles was important to my development and growth as well. But I didn't find out about Miles until after he had passed away. I was at a church and they said we lost a great man today, Miles Monroe, and that led to me like, who is Miles Monroe? And that led to my journey of me discovering Miles Monroe, who also helped me establish how my marriage is set up now. Showing me that it's important for my wife to both see the Superman and the Clark Kent in me. Like my wife needs to know my areas of vulnerability as well as my areas of strength. And a lot of times we kind of separate and delineate them. And so one of the things Rod said that I really picked up on is he got laid off. And like a lot of times good things are wrapped in packages like that, right? It's wrapped in a package that you don't, it's like, I don't want this, right? Like, because that was my journey, right? I was at 9 years in the Navy and I thought I was going to retire from the Navy. And I was in a car accident and I was pushed out of the Navy. They medically separate. I wanted to stay in and I was medically separate. And I'm like, this is my whole plan. Like I'm at 10 years. Like what am I supposed to do? And I realized like my identity was tied to the Navy. Like if you ask me who I was, I would tell you I'm AS2 in the US Navy. If you ask me who I was, I would tell you what I did. And that happens for a lot of men. When you ask them who they are, they tell you what they do. So for me, my whole identity, I joined the Navy when I was 19 years old. I turned 20 in boot camp. And here I am at 29 years old and I got 2 months to get out. But God, I'm right here. God, I'm supposed to retire. I'm supposed to. And that's how God led me to finding my passion. Right? When I was pushed out of the Navy, I had all this free time. So I would go to the elementary schools and sit with the troubled boys. And I'd have lunch with the troubled boys at the elementary school. Because those boys, what I saw in them, I also saw in me. Like, oh, they growing up, their father's in jail. I remember 2 boys, they graduate high school now. Their dad's in jail. And so they lashing out of anger and hurt from that. Okay, I started going to detention centers. And I'm in the detention centers because all this free time now and I'm not working. And I start talking to these boys. I'm seeing myself in my journey, right? God is the father to the fatherless. I told God I wanted to be a strong man with wisdom. Yeah, you want to be strong? Okay, well, you got to grow up in this situation. You want wisdom? Well, you got to solve problems. Well, lucky for me, I had to solve problems at an early age. Right? My mother was addicted to drugs, right? What does that do to a child that grows up? Now I became a parent when I was 8 years old, right? I'm trying to look out for my mother, right? These are the things that at the time I'm like, why is me? And now I see these are the things that made me strong. So when things happen now, it's like, man, why are you so calm under these pressures? Well, I've been handling obstacles since I was 8 years old, right? I've been overcoming things since I was a child. So like God put me in these positions to overcome things my whole life, right? That's how you get wisdom. You either get it from experience or you can leverage other people's. And that was the gift that I had growing up that I thought was a curse. It was wrapped. So me getting put out of the Navy, I thought it was a bad thing, right? I was in the process of building the house that I'm in now, right? This was our dream house, 4,000 square foot house. I moved to Texas to build it and I got fired the day we broke construction. I got fired on Juneteenth by a black woman from the federal government. Nobody gets fired from the federal government. And I knew it was premeditated because a letter came in the mail. I was like, wait, how you sent me this letter already?
It was your real emancipation.
There we go.
Exactly, right? I had built up enough faith and confidence, not just in myself, but in my wife. So my wife, when I told my wife I just got fired, she was like, okay, well, go to the gym and we'll talk about it when you get back, right? She didn't break a sweat, didn't nothing. We still kept building the house like nothing happened. I figured it out. right? In the midst of that, I had zero lack. I didn't have another job until 3 months before closing, which gave me the exact amount of time to show them proof of income when they looked at my bank statement.
That's great.
Right? Yep. It's like, oh, well, thank you, God. Right? Not only did I get a job, I got a job paying over twice as much as I was making when I got fired.
Yeah, I'm gonna repurpose this channel just to call it, like, miraculous turnarounds and awesome breakthroughs and impossible circumstances. Like, this is what I gotta call it now, because it's been like three weeks of that stuff. So I mean, just to hear that.
So, and that's what gave us all what we needed to spend whatever money we had to go see Myron Golden.
Come on,
because we already seen what God has done with our life.
Yeah.
Me going to see Myron Golden, that was a seed sown, but I'd already seen what God was able to do with my life.
I don't know how anybody gonna follow up that, but I'll say this. The one thing that I found to be remarkably refreshing, and it's one among many things, let me say that, at Myron's OML conference, Offer Mastery Live, was the energy. It was like you have all these people from around the world, because it wasn't just US people there. And they all have the motivation mindset. They all have the mindset of getting better, being more productive, being the best version of themselves that they can be, due to the fact that that's what Myron promotes. He promotes kingdom lifestyle, kingdom expansion, being the best version of yourself, the best representative of the God who made you. And the best way to do that is to, one, know your purpose and have the right mindset and how to pursue and achieve that purpose. And the only way you do that is with the help of the Most High. That's it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they definitely promoted there, and especially people call them Myronisms, are affirmations, man. Speaking over yourself. Like we stated earlier, Rod, that like death and life is in the power of the tongue. And one thing that I conscientiously did at least 3 months before even going down to Tampa was reciting affirmations in the morning and scriptures that I knew were God's truth and his promises to me and what I knew about myself. Because in truth, whatever Yah tells you about himself in his word, he's also telling about you. Whatever he's capable of doing, you are indeed capable of doing. Maybe not to the size and degree and scope of the Elohim who created everything that is, but you have a portion of him in you. You have creative ability. You have the ability to speak things into being. By locking and controlling your mind and your thoughts on only the positive, the word says that God says, be ye holy as I am holy. Now, I took that to understand I got to be perfect in all my actions. I can't look this type of way. I can't act this type. I can't do nothing like that. And that's what I thought being holy was, because holy is like the pinnacle of righteousness to me. That's what I thought it was.
Right.
And then my mind was like, how can I be perfect like God is perfect? You know what I'm saying? When the word also says all have sinned and come short of the glory. And then the word also says there is none that are good. No, not one. Christ himself said there's only one that's good, and that's God himself. So if I'm preparing these scriptures and I'm looking at myself and I was like, what does holy mean? And then Yah broke it down to me through Miles Monroe. He says, when God calls himself holy, it's because there's none other like him. He is holy himself. He doesn't change. He doesn't lie. His word is above his name. And you ain't got no worries or variation about who he is. He says, I am. That's how confident he is in his holiness. He says, I am. So I was like, okay, how does that apply to me? He's like, I want you to be holy just like I am holy. I want you to be all the way you, nothing shielded, nothing hidden, just like I'm all the way me. So the way you communicate, the way you act, the way you speak, the way you converse, the way you move, anything that is completely specific to you, that's what I want you to be. And I want you to be that to the fullest, because there's an element of me inside of you. And the only way that comes out is if you are comfortable being you. So my affirmations reflected that. And so when I started becoming more and more confident about who I was and what I can offer and what I could do, then I jump into a room with these two brothers and about hundreds of other people feeling the same way. It's like combustion. So Rod, talk a little bit about your experience just being in the environment.
Oh, I hear people say all the time, you had to be there. This is one of the first times I did it in this kind of corporate environment where you had to be in the room. Now, just like you, Collins, I was following, Myron for some time and all into the videos. And quite honestly, I was a little bit skeptical going, I'm like, I've been following him so much. What am I going to really get from this? He's going to talk about some of the same material, I was afraid that it would be a situation where it's like, okay, I'm only going to get some real like potent stuff from the other speakers. Was I wrong? Oh my goodness. So, I mean, I didn't care if he covered a topic that he already covered. I didn't care if he talked about a scripture I've studied thoroughly. No matter what it was that came from that stage, no matter what speaker it was all potent and strong, whether I heard it before or not. So I'm not a note taker at all. I take notes in my brain, and I don't even have that great a memory. So that ought to tell you something. This conference, I took like 20 pages of notes. And I mean, I was writing like you wouldn't believe. And I was able to absorb so much. I mean, I got quote after quote after quote, but one of the key takeaways or the key things that stuck with me was when he said, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And I mean, it was just so simple, but it's mind blowing how many of us will fight for our limitations. Oh man, I can't do that. Oh, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, yeah, well, I would do that, but like, it's so many different things you can say that limit you. Like, you're going to get stuck if you don't do what you need to do. So real quick, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to pass it off. So we all know the Kanye West song, Diamonds Are Forever, with Jay-Z on it or whatever. Jay-Z's verse is nothing but affirmations. It's nothing but self-proclamation. If you go back and listen to it and really dissect it and hear what he's actually saying, every single part of that verse is him self-proclaiming what the future of Rockefeller and Roc Nation and his own career is going to be. I don't have to go through the whole thing, but I do want to point out when he said, how could you falter when you're the Rock of Gibraltar? I had to get off the boat so I can walk on water. If you think about it, I had to get off the boat. Okay. What's the boat? Comfortability. What's the boat? Familiarity. What's the boat? Safety. What's the boat? This job that I've been working at forever, right? So I can walk on water. That's the supernatural. That's the miracle. That's the thing that you don't know how you're going to do on your own, right? And you do think about Peter doing that and whatnot. It takes faith. But beyond faith, you got to keep your eyes on Jesus, right? If you take your eyes off of him in the midst of stepping out into this vast ocean that we call life, you're going to sink. That's all it is to it. So go back and study that verse from a biblical standpoint and absorb the faith and the affirmations that he had to put out in that time of his life. This is a multimillionaire whose entire world is crumbling because his team is falling apart. And he had to self-proclaim, we're going to be all right forever. I'm good. Nothing to worry about. Right. And it's the type of positivity that we have to evoke and put forth in our life and believe it in order for it to actually come to. So
the power of affirmations is so serious. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought it was, all fluff at first, especially when I saw the people posting. I was like, man, they talking that stuff again, until you come to a point where you realize, no, my mind has been conditioned wrong. I need to repent. One thing I learned was the true definition of what repentance was. It doesn't mean going down in front of people and confessing your deepest, darkest. That's not repentance. Repentance is the changing of the mind. Switching it from what you have thought to saying that is not true anymore to this is the truth. And repenting and changing the way you think. And that takes practice, and affirmation only helps with that. CJ, talk to me about the experience, man, and what you got from being there, meeting people. What's good?
Rod just gave me a lot, and so it reminds me of a skit I just seen where John talks about how he beat Peter to the tomb, right? It was like, why did you have to put that in there, right? But no, it's like, why you put that you was the fastest? Like, why you put that you beat me? But like, we don't hear about John attempting to walk on the water, right? Peter's criticized for his boldness, but his boldness is why he's the only disciple that got out of the boat and walked on the water. And so when you talk about affirmations, we do it all the time. I'm a paper chaser. You got your, like, we do it all the time, right? And that's the thing about music and the frequency and the waves. And I think this is what the enemy knows, right? We're conditioning ourselves. And so when I first started calling myself king, I was uncomfortable saying it. And I was uncomfortable calling other people king, right? And I started doing it because I spent all this time calling myself a real, you know what I'm saying? I'm a real, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm a player, I'm a pimp, you know, all these negative things. And I ended up becoming those things that I was calling myself. There's only so many times you can call yourself stupid or dumb or a player or a pimp or all these negatives before it starts affecting your behavior. And I saw it in my life. Right? You know what I'm saying? I saw that, you know, like, oh, I became this because I kept saying it. Biggie Smalls talked about life after death and ready to die. Well, of course he died. Like, of course. Yeah, you died. Like, yeah, you died at 26. And that's how I began to start calling myself king. And it wasn't like a superiority thing. It was, I wanted to call myself to a higher standard of being. Because when you started calling yourself king, people start looking at you differently.
Yeah.
People wanted this, oh, you call yourself, what make you think you're king? Well, I used to wear a shirt that said king on the front and servant on the back, right? Because a king is one that serves. I called myself king to start doing and being to a higher level of myself, right? It wasn't about like no superiority conference. I wasn't calling nobody peasants, but I needed that because I spent so much time calling myself these negative things. And so for me at Offer Mastery, it was just amazing to see so many people that passionate about their growth and development that they stop whatever you were doing. It wasn't on the weekend. Like, Myron didn't do this on the weekend. Like, no, you got to come here on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday. Like, that's not convenient. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. See you Tuesday. I got work. All right, take off. Right. You know what I'm saying? Just that, you know, and being in that environment with people that was that dedicated, it was like, I'm going to just do it. One of the additional things that stood out to me because like Rod, he was like, I already follow Myron, and I looked at the speaker list, and boy, was I wrong, because I was like, I don't really follow any of these speakers. I don't really know them that well. And those speakers blew my head off. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, boom, you know, just dropping so many nuggets. And one of the things that really spoke to me about the affirmations is a lot of times we see our current self from our past point of view. And so when I came back, me and my wife was having a discussion, like anytime you said, I can't believe I did that, it's because I can't believe I made that mistake. I can't believe I was whatever. It's because you're looking at your past as your future self, right? So of course the you now wouldn't have done that. The you then did. Right. And so like, can you reverse it? Can you do the stuff now that the future you would be proud of? Can you do the stuff now that the future you would do? Can you do the stuff now that you look back and you was like, I do believe I did that. Like, of course I did that. You daggone right I did that because that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, everything I touch is gold. You know, those type of things. It was like, of course I made the right decision because I've been training myself to make the right decisions. And I made this decision today based on what my future self would do.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's what I told myself. I said, it's going to take you 10 years to be king. And in 10 years, you're going to say it's take you 20. Right? It's like, because it's never a thing. Like, how do I know if I'm a king or not? Well, we've seen people live long enough to ruin their legacy. Like, you know, we've seen Bill Cosby live long enough to ruin his legacy. We've seen our heroes, right? Like, you know, you take, for instance, DMX. Well, if DMX had passed in 2002, he would have been the greatest rapper ever, right? He had 2 platinum albums in a year. Like, you know, he was selling out Woodstock. He was just doing so much. He was acting. Right, these things, right? We've seen R. Kelly. Like, we've seen these men live long enough to ruin their legacy, right? We're seeing it with Diddy right now, right? We're seeing him live long enough that all the good stuff he done is overshadowed. And it's like, well, that's my goal. I don't want to outlive my legacy. I want my legacy to live on forever, right? I want, when something happens to me, there are men there that are talking about the impact that I made in their lives. Or when I met Collins, he helped me with this, or he showed me this, or he taught me this, or he helped me see my way through this, and that's the aim. And it's like, well, this is a lifetime journey. I'm on a lifetime journey for self and personal development. I'm committed to getting better for the rest of my life.
Amen, dude. It's like, as long as we here, that's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. And I want to affirm you brothers in saying this. You guys are already kings before you were even born.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you why that is. I finally understand the reality of the meaning when it says in the word that he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Because I never used to understand that. My understanding of it from a religious perspective was the fact that when we all get to heaven, that we're going to get crowns and then we'll be kings. But that's not the truth. If you read in the first chapter of Genesis, the order and the decree is established. God wanted us to have dominion from then, meaning he wanted us to have kingship now. Because the only way you have dominion is to be a king. That's why it's king's dominion. The reason why I find that to be so impactful is because just like what you said, CJ, in your commitment to develop and move forward and be better each and every day, that's a kingly pursuit.
Yeah.
Rod, what you've done as far as being an entrepreneur and the moves that you've made to secure your family and yourself financially and help people expose their brand, build their brand, and help them to be more of themselves in self-expression, that's a kingly pursuit. But it's in both of you to do these things, and it helps bless other people. That's the type of dominion that you were given from the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You could serve. Just like you said, you had a shirt that said king on the front, servant on the back. That's what Christ was when he was here. He was a servant king. And the kingdom of Elohim is a kingdom of servant kings. I, like you, was very, very hesitant in calling myself a king, even in private. I was just like, I didn't feel like it. And it's largely because of what I was saying and what I was thinking based on what I was taking in through my five senses on a constant basis. So when I started to change my words and change my thinking and calling myself, it's like, wait a minute. The word's like, what's the absolute truth about me? Well, let me go to the source about the one who made me, because he knows the absolute truth about me. I was made in his image. He made me to have dominion. What area did he give me dominion? Oh, communications. So I need to develop and pursue or have the kingly pursuit of being the best possible communicator and human connector I can. Because one thing I figured out that the Most High also gave me was the ability to pull people together. When I sat down day one at the conference, Trey sat down on my left side and Mimi sat down on my right. And when we went off to lunch, Trey pulled CJ in, and I met Rod the next day through Mimi because I was talking to her in the lobby, and he had met her the previous day. Then I met Rod. Now we all on the podcast right now. Yeah. And Trey and Miriam ain't here, and they're going to be here later. But I was just like, to be able to be the bond, the connector between people is something I relish beyond any type of personal achievement. Yeah. If you tell me I can go outside and throw a stone and make $1 million, it wouldn't make me as happy as making somebody else that same $1 million. Yeah. Because that's what the king put in me from himself. He never puts us here or gives us the talents and gifts that we have for ourselves. Yeah. Look at the parable of the 10 talents, 5 talents, and the brother that had like 2 ain't do nothing with it. The one who hid his talent ain't do nothing with it. That was the one he called wicked. So if you want to know what's wicked, you look at that servant. You wicked servant. That's what he called him. And that ain't going to be me. You got to take what you got, recognize it. And if you don't know what it is, ask the Father, because he surely knows what it is. When you find it out, make a holy kingly pursuit in learning everything and developing yourself as best as you can be to fulfill what he put in you to do. Once you do that, man, you good to go. And you're going to have, like, if you were looking for money and for things and for resources, all that will come based on your ability to serve in your kingly pursuit.
For anybody that's watching this, that's wondering, what's my purpose? What's the thing that I'm put here to do? If what you're doing or what you desire to do does not impact the community around you, then that's not the thing that's purpose for you. Okay. So God did not give you gifts and talents just for yourself, as my man just said. He is a God of multiplication, not division. Okay. If what you're doing can't multiply and serve other people and other communities, then you probably need to take it back to God and say, okay, God, is this what you have for me? How can I multiply your kingdom and spread your love and your glory to people around me and the community around me so we can all raise up? As you mentioned, when you guys were standing outside of the door to go in on that second day and I walked up, I don't know if you recall, but I asked you to introduce yourself to me. Mm-hmm. And you started introducing yourself. And what did I do?
You cut me off.
Cut you off.
You caused me to reframe what I was stating, because whatever I was stating was not the answer you were initially looking for.
So I was looking to find out who you were, and what you were doing was telling me what you do. I cut it off to make it more of a relational pool than a transactional pool. Yeah. And because of that, we ended up connecting throughout the rest of that, time. At the lunch table, it's like, hey, did you introduce yourself to that person? It became a bond. So if I had any closing words, I would say, be more relational. And transactional happen. Develop the relationship, pour into people without expecting a pour back. You do that when you present value, when you develop a relationship, what'll come from that is opportunity. the opportunity that you have to create a relationship is most of the time undermined by your desire for the transaction. So put the transaction on the back end, put the relational piece on the front end, and just be human. And when you do that, what you're going to find is this person, somebody I can relate to. And now you have a relationship. I trust them, right? And you build on that. And maybe business will come, maybe it won't. But one thing or another, you'll have a relationship with that person that could last a lifetime.
One thing Myron says that I love is he said, do not use the people and love the money, but rather use the money to love the people. And that's exactly what you spoke about, man, in that statement. CJ, man, what about you, dog? You got some closing thoughts?
Myron says you don't need anybody's permission to do what you're called to do. But if you do need, let's say you are somebody that needs permission to do something great. This right here is your permission. I now give you permission to be who you're supposed to be and do what you're supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
Like when you talk about our gifts and understanding what it is that we're called to do, God can give you one idea that will change your life forever. You can spend one day with God and he will give you one idea. He'll give you an idea on your walk, on your daily walk. Just ask God for what it is, right? If you're unsure what your gift is, spend time with God and he will show you, right? You go to Matthew 7:7. I used to go to this all the time. Ask and it will be given to you.
Yeah.
Ask and it shall be given to you. I used to write it down. Ask and it should be given to you. He wants to give you the things that you're asking for. Right. So spend some time with God. Will reveal your gifting to you and he will give you an idea that if you execute on it, it will change your life forever. You're not waiting on God. God waiting on you. I promise you.
Yeah.
He's waiting on you to ask. He's like, oh, about time, right? All right, got it. This is what you should do.
Oh man, you just sparked another verse that came to my mind. It says, I do not know where it's found, but those who are hearing me, they can Google it. It says, the eyes of the Lord move to and fro through the earth to see whose heart is perfect towards him so he can show himself strong through them. I want you to consider that. Those who have their heart perfect. So when you sincerely ask it, God's like, yo, what do you got me here for? Like sincerity. Don't play around with it. God knows when you sincere and he knows when you fake it. He's the only one to know. You can lie to man, but you cannot lie to the Father of everything. So when you're sincere and your heart is perfect towards him, then he says he's looking for those he can show himself strong through. Meaning what he's about to do, he ain't gonna just sprinkle something. He about to say, oh, he's ready now. Let's go.
Right.
I've been waiting for my son, for my daughter to beseech me like this. Now they ready. Now let's go. That's what he's waiting for.
There's a Frederick Douglass quote, but he talked about, I prayed and prayed for my freedom. And he didn't get it until he started walking, until he started using his feet. I think that's what it was. But I was telling people all the time, right? God knows the desires of your heart, but your desires of your heart are revealed by what you do with your hands. And for some people, right, I don't want to put nobody on blast, right? But their heart's desire is telling God that they want to relax and watch TV.
Yeah.
That's, I don't want to step on the toes, but if God looks at your life, he says, you desire comfort. You desire relaxation. You desire Netflix. Right? That's what you desire. I can, because God is not listening just to you. Your heart is what you do. So what you're doing is what you desire.
I was just going to add to that, Collins, where your treasure is, there you will find your heart also. And I'm paraphrasing as well, but outside of your hands and what you're actually doing, which ties into faith without works is dead, where you spend your money, right? A lot of people say, oh, well, I don't have $200 for no course, or I don't have $1,000 for a conference. That's fine. But you got $400 to go get a new hairdo, and you got $500 to buy a new outfit. Why don't you put those two things together and invest into yourself and into the business that you say you want? I totally agree with that, and you're spot on with that, man. You have to believe, and then you have to do. And that do has something to do with investing in yourself as well.
Real quick, I'll clean up my quote. It's, I prayed for 20 years and received no answer until I prayed with my legs.
Okay. That's strong. I get that. That is.
Yeah.
Hey, look, fellas, I'm incredibly appreciative and graced by your presence, by your knowledge, by your wisdom, by your pursuits. I want you to definitely leave your contact information. No, I know, Rod, you left yours in the beginning, but CJ, I want you to do that also in case you want people to reach out, find your contact information, see more of what you do and how they can contribute or be a part of it in any way. So, CJ, I'm gonna ask you to go first since Rob presented his a little earlier, and Rob, you can go ahead and restate.
Yeah, I'm Collins on Instagram. I am King Collins. I'm very easy to find. And what I'm doing now, I'm interested in working with men that are really serious about developing themselves in leadership. So if you contact me, I'm hosting a mastermind, small 6-week mastermind, because I want to work with men in small group settings to help them make the rest of this year the best year ever. And Tony Robbins said we often underestimate what we can do in 10 years and we overestimate what we can do in a year. They still have time. So I want to help men get the rest of this year. I want to help you do twice as much in half the time. So if that's something that interests you, please contact me, reach out to me. Instagram is the easiest platform to connect with me.
So that said, I did say in the beginning that I own a full service marketing agency at brinsondesigns.com. But more personally, I've been repositioning myself and pivoting to help other entrepreneurs with their walk and their journey. And so what I'm really focused on is taking your business to the next level through personal branding, right? Because people buy from people, right? They don't buy your products, they don't buy your services, they don't buy your business, they buy from you. All right, so work on you, fix you, craft you in such a way where your branding speaks for itself. So follow me on Instagram at rod.brinson, and looking forward to connecting with you.
Man, listen, this is B-Tones, Bradley B-Tones Tramel. I am only here to help people overcome their nerves and their fears that are associated with self-expression and public speaking or private speaking. And this is one of the platforms I do it on. So you seeing me do my practice and do my work as I'm doing it. And I'm loving the fact that you're here. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And until the next time, you already know that on the B-Tones podcast, if you don't get nothing else, you're going to get a good word. So I pray that everyone's blessed. Until the next time we meet again, may y'all bless and keep you.